Hello, I'm Michael Cantrell, and you are listening to the Prison Officer Podcast, a place to have a conversation about the forgotten cops that work in this country's jails, prisons, and correctional centers. A place for me to try to make sense of a career spent working inside the fence with some of the greatest people that nobody sees or recognizes for the important job they do to keep this world safe. If you love this podcast, hit the follow button, or better yet, share with your family, friends, or coworkers. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prison Officer Podcast. I am Mike Cantrell. As you know, Pepperball is our sponsor. I want to take a moment before we get started to thank them. If you haven't looked at Pepperball, if you don't use it in your agency right now, reach out to www.pepperball.com. See what they've got as far as launchers, as far as the different rounds they've got, whether it's PAVA, whether it's glass breaking rounds, whatever your needs are. But you can find all that at pepperball.com, www.pepperball.com. While I've got you on here, before I get started with today's guest, I want you to check out my new book came out in May, The Weight of Justice. You can find that on Amazon, so go look that up. I'd appreciate you taking a look at that. It's doing really well, and I appreciate all of you that have bought it and read it so far. So today, I've got a guest. We're going to talk about stuff that I don't think we've had any guests that has talked about this directly on the podcast. So today, I'm going to talk to Letha Cowan. She's the owner of Watchline Supply Company. She's a former correctional officer from Washington State, and she has combined her firsthand experience behind the walls and with professional certifications as a NASM certified personal trainer and a nutrition coach. And she does this to help correctional officers improve their health, their strength, and their performance. Rather than focusing on bodybuilding or aesthetics, Letha specializes in functional fitness. It's functional fitness designed specifically for the realities of correctional work, developing strength, conditioning, mobility, and explosive power that can make a difference when the seconds count. Through one-on-one coaching, nutritional programming, and sustainable weight loss strategies, she helps officers build healthier careers and healthier lives while recognizing an important truth. When the uniform comes off, your health is what you take home. Letha is passionate about changing the culture around officer wellness and believes correctional professionals deserve the same attention and support given to every other first responder. I have to mention, I wouldn't have found Letha without Trey, one of the listeners, and I appreciate it when this happens. If you see somebody great that we need to interview, email me, and one of our listeners, Trey, did that, and he's working with Letha. So welcome to the Prison Officer Podcast, Letha. It's great to have you on here.
Thank you, Mike. And also I want to say a big thank you to Trey. Trey, you guys are wonderful. Just having me here and I guess allowing a space for a conversation that isn't really had very often. It seems like it's not talked about. And Trey is going through the program. He's doing phenomenally. Implementing healthy habits into his life wasn't something that was natural for him. It wasn't something that was on the forefront of his mind. It was just, so often get up, go to work, get through the shift, just survive.
Yeah.
And I'm very passionate about officers thriving outside of, just having to survive the career and get to retirement.
Yeah. It's, they don't make it easy. Sometimes, especially right now, people are getting slammed. I mean, 16, 18, I hear 20 plus hour days. And then you're supposed to take care of yourself in the middle of that. When?
How? Yeah. How do you get adequate sleep and proper exercise and nutrition when you are there for 16 to 18 hours, then come home to sleep to wake up to just get there again and maybe have to do another 16 right ahead of you?
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to navigate. And that is also one of the things that kind of was the catalyst for me to kind of create this, because they're on the market, at least in the fitness industry, especially in the online fitness coaching world. That's where most people do their fitness coaching now, currently. It's very targeted for aesthetics and over function. And that's all great. I don't mind anybody who wants to build muscle.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Lean body mass keeps us healthy. But a lot of the times when we're thinking about training, if we're only training isolated muscle groups, we're not really thinking about the body as one whole moving part, and how correctional officers need fitness to perform to their benefit on the job. When they are running to, the next whatever is there waiting for them, or if they go hands-on, do they have the endurance and the cardiorespiratory capacity to withstand this push-pull thing that you get involved in a lot,
Yeah.
So
Well, this isn't just theory with you. You were a correctional officer. Tell me how you got into corrections and what that was like.
Oh gosh, okay. Well, that's kind of one of those all over the stories. I was actually bodybuilding before I became an officer. Okay. I was in the fitness industry as a one-on-one personal trainer in a local gym. And right after COVID, of course, business went down. Gyms were just starting to open back up, and people weren't working out as regularly. Everybody had kind of gotten into inactive mode, and I needed a stable job. So I was like, I'm going to go ahead.
Prisons were hiring, weren't they?
Yeah, they were hiring. So I was like, I'm going to go try this out. I never thought they would have considered me just based off of I'm pretty decorated. You know what I mean? I'm pretty decorated, and I look very similar to the people who are housed there permanently sometimes. So, but I got there, and I really did enjoy it. I enjoy the job. I have a love for corrections that is just going to forever be with me. I was there for approximately 3 to 3.5 years, not even 3.5. I don't even think I made 3.5 years. And then I transferred to re-enter.
Where'd you work at in the prison?
In the prisons? Well, I worked in Tom Unit. That was the unit that I worked in. It was an MI3 facility, so it's just medium custody and below. I worked in Tom Unit. Tom Unit was, they always call it the ghetto. We have Robert, Tom, and Nora. And so I worked Tom Unit, and it kept us pretty busy. Then we had 3 other minimum custody units in the main campus. And then outside of the main facility, there's a more camp type facility over there. And I started as relief. I didn't start as a unit officer. I started as relief. And so I got assigned third shift, which up here is 2 to 10. So it was sweet. Right. Yep. So third shift relief, that was my post. I tried a couple different temps in visiting. I think I temped the duty officer in the camp. That wasn't my cup of tea. Landed a permanent bid in Tom Unit. And that was kind of where I stayed until I left to go to reentry, which was a whole other animal altogether. And ultimately what made me decide to end my career as an officer. But that had a lot more to do with the facility's take on officer safety, I guess, to say things more politically correct.
You don't have to on here, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
I did. Well, officer safety is not at the forefront of the administration's minds recently, and I don't think it has been for a while. So all of these things kind of combining together, my own health taking a back burner, understanding just working back-to-back mandatory overtime, not having great food choices accessible if I got mandoed on the spot, or it's easier to prepare if I'm picking up a voluntary shift, but if I'm mandoed and they're like, well, you're staying until tomorrow morning, and so we get a hungry man, that's not great.
Right. So did you notice going from bodybuilding and then going into that shift work in corrections, is that one of the things that kind of jarred you? You physically noticed the change?
Absolutely.
That was going on?
I did. So I had come from a bodybuilding background. not very functional at all. Looked great, not functional.
Right.
The first time I think I actually had to run from a pretty decent distance. I think it's probably about 70 yards from P4, which is our movement officer's booth in the courtyard. He's calling movement, and you run down the catwalk or down the side, the breezeway, I guess, and then down towards, there was a fight on Tom and Robert Walkway because it kind of wise off, and they always like to fight right there because it's just where they go.
Yep.
So, and I was hanging around at P4, and they were just like, hey, November, 332, 331, there's a fight on Robert and Tom Walkway, and zone responders respond. And so I was like, whoa, that's me. I gotta go. I gotta go. And I don't think I made it past the first gate before I realized how winded I was, and I still had 50 to 60 yards to go before I even got there. Luckily, everybody just followed directives and got on the ground and got ready to cuff up. No big deal, but that's not how it always goes. It's really not.
Yeah.
Some guys are not going to stop, and so go ahead.
That's one of the things we teach early to the rookies, because even if you notice that you are getting winded, you're not in the shape you thought you were, it's better to slow down a little bit and have some fight than to run that whole way and get there and be another problem. And I've seen that happen so many times in my career, where somebody turned out to be a problem that we're helping after they did the run and the stairs and everything, and then they can't do anything. And so that's so important to understand that and know that about yourself.
Yeah, to not show up completely gassed out and just still have some left in the tank, just in case things don't go great. Because even if they go okay momentarily, that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. He may all of a sudden decide, well, resistance is the thing he wants to do. And then he's headbutting, and you have all kinds of stuff going on.
Sure. So
having the capacity to engage, when you need to engage, and be prepared before anything happens is really what I learned from that situation directly. What I directly learned was, okay, my training situation is not right for the job at all. What I'm doing currently is square peg, round hole. I got to change things up for myself. But it wasn't immediately. It definitely wasn't immediately that I did that. I think like a lot of officers that I've spoken to, whether they're into the powerlifting thing or whether they're into the bodybuilding thing, kind of transitioning out of what their normal routine, if they have one, because it's not many of us. I mean, according to the most recent PubMed study, and I don't know how you feel about PubMed or how valid they are, but it's approximately 86.6% of correctional officers are currently overweight. And about 40% of them breach that clinically obese. And that means a lot different thing. A lot of times when we think obese, we think morbidly obese. That's not what I mean by clinically obese, but clinically obese. And the health factors when you get into that range are pretty serious.
Yeah. How does that compare to, because I look at America these days, I'm obese, I'm big, I'm overweight. How does that compare to Americans? If we're at 86, what is America running at? 60, 70? I don't know.
Probably between 50 to 60%. I would think. I don't know if it's up to 70%. I haven't looked at the statistics of Americans as a whole, but I know as far as the groupings of first responders, correctional officers place as the last, as being the most unhealthy, and then they have the highest average of overweight statistics and then clinically obese statistics. But I think that comes along with just when any first responder or in any first responder type of career, you have shift work and you're working a lot of overtime. So it's almost more important to prioritize health and wellness and fitness in those, I guess, in those career paths.
Yeah. And for many jobs, I mean, there's a lot of correctional jobs that 80-90% of your day is spent sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
If you're downtown watching an inmate, if you're working, control, if you some places still have towers, that's butt in seat for the
All
entire
day.
shift.
Yeah. All day. And so there's not a lot. I mean, the most you might get is if you're doing tier checks once an hour, you'll get up and walk, and it's just not, or if you're lucky enough to be an R&M that day, then you get to walk the perimeter, but that's maybe the only walking that you're getting,
Sure.
in that on your shift, if you're not just in the booth or in the tower.
So let's move on to, so what was it? Was there a certain catalyst? Was it you thinking afterwards? But what got you to get into the Watchline supply, start the fitness after you got out of corrections?
That's like a 3-part answer.
I got time.
Okay. It's like a 3-part answer. So first and foremost, it was my own decline in my own health. So I entered corrections very physically fit looking, appearing. I appeared very physically fit. I had come from bodybuilding. I wasn't as lean or as peeled or as shredded, but I was still very athletic looking. In the course of the 3 years, I gained 50 pounds. 50 pounds, and it was all just due to, it was poor choices, but a lot of them over time, it was not pre-packing my meals, not taking them to work, stopping at Jack in the Box at 6 o'clock in the morning, going home, sleeping, not making it to the gym. And so I gained the 50 pounds. And then I was like, no, I'm going to do something different. At that time, I had enough time in to not have to worry about so much mandatory overtime like it was. Like, I think my first year to year and a half, it was a lot more mandatory overtime. I had the ability to focus on my health. And then when I moved out of prisons division into reentry division, it was one of those things that I was very excited about. I had very high hopes for. I was looking at a bunch of new career opportunity, advancement, promotion, all the things. I thought it was going to be great overall. It did not pan out for me that way. I learned very quickly, like I said, that it was actually, I'll never forget the day that it happened. We were having our quarterly staff meeting, and I don't know, the initiative that's running up here is called the Washington Way, and it's like the new Norway program. Is how we're implementing.
Oregon, the Bureau of Prisons is pushing that direction now. There's a whole bunch of that. Yeah,
so it's called the Washington Way, and I had chimed in because I was one of 3 officers that they had hired directly from prisons. Everybody else was brand new. So nobody outside of myself, and then one of the graveyard gals, and then I was day shift by that point, but I was day shift, and then one of our swing shift guys were the only 3 that had prison experience. The rest of them had come from completely different backgrounds, starting out brand new. DOC had kind of absorbed all of the reentry centers after the state contracts had ended. The state contractors had ended, they had picked them back up. So they were like, all right, we're going to move forward and we're going to roll out the Washington Way. And we were having a meeting, and I talked about officer safety and just little small things that we could have done to the physical plant, trainings we could be having, security mindset, watching the way that we're interacting with, the incarcerated individuals on a daily basis, just all of the basic things that you learn And one of the administrators looked at me dead in the face and said, "Officer safety is not our concern." And I was speechless. I was like, "You got to be kidding me. You didn't just say that." I was like, "No, that's wrong. No." I thought for sure I couldn't, that stopped everything in my brain. I was like, I couldn't compute that mentally.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, all right. I was like, well, do I go back to the prisons, or do I stay here, or do I try for community spots, or do I just kind of watch and see how this unfolds? And of course, the few of us that did have prisons experience, we didn't have that much. 4 years is not that much time. I think the three of us had maybe 12 years combined total.
Yeah.
And we were tasked with training all the new guys. So I'm training them what I know and, what I've learned. And they were just like, we don't like your approach. So I was like, okay. So I stopped giving my input and I stopped giving my insights, and I just kind of took a step back and I did my daily duties, made sure I was doing them correctly. And then I started noticing things, and then things that were really outside of policy and my understanding of what we're even doing. I documented and I submitted grievances. I was filing grievances and escalating them, and I was like, this is not safe for anybody. Like my biggest concern is safety, and somebody is going to get hurt, and we're not taking the necessary precautions to prevent that. And nobody here is seasoned enough to know the difference. So this is, it just came down to, I'm not going to participate in this anymore. I wasn't going to participate in it anymore. I couldn't. And so I came home. My husband is still a sergeant in the prison. He's been a sergeant there for like 10 years. But I was like, I'm going to do something else, because this is crazy. And officer safety does matter. And we're the most valuable assets any facility has, because without officers, you just have, the incarcerated.
Okay. I travel around the country. I hear this same story over and over. I especially hear it. I talked to a friend the other day. I especially hear it from the new staff. They don't feel safe anymore. And I worked at some of the toughest prisons in the country, but I always felt safe because that's what we cared about: officer safety. The senior officers around me might tell me to kick rocks, get away from me, Rook, don't talk to me. But I knew if shit kicked off, they would be there in a heartbeat. And the new staff don't feel that way. And I do think a lot of it comes from the fact that we have administrations full of psychiatrists, budget analysts, former inmates are becoming more and more common. New York just put an inmate on the prison commission that decides rules for the New York Corrections Department. So we're in a area right now where everybody's feeling that. It's not right.
No. And the pendulum swings back and forth, I feel like, and it has, and we're going way over here, and it's unfortunate, but something drastic is going to have to happen before it comes back this way. And so the officer safety piece, my own performance, because I held myself to a standard, because I didn't want to be the partner that nobody could rely on. You know what I mean? Because you see that guy, and you know that guy, and you work with that guy, and that guy exists, I think, in every facility, and he'll just kind of, somebody else will get it. No, that guy is there. And I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. But I didn't, I think those two things kind of combined, and then I left with a very heavy heart. And then I was like, all right, well, officer safety is my concern. We do matter. Our wellness matters. Our health matters. Our fitness level matters to job performance. But, job performance on the day-to-day, but then, at that 20-year finish line, you're still doing okay. Your knees aren't busted up. Your back isn't busted up. Your duty belt isn't killing your hips,
Yeah.
because
I do.
the older guys that are getting up there and they've been there for 30 or 40 years, or, well, maybe not 40. Well, Perry was there for a long time. Perry was there for a very long time. But, 35 years of walking and running on concrete is not good, for your body, on your bones, and then the stress, and then,
Yeah. The other thing that happens with fitness and with health is exactly what you're talking about with this. If the officers don't feel safe, if they don't feel like they're part of a group who cares about them, if they don't feel like they're being taken care of, morale tanks. And when morale tanks, nobody's doing what they need to for their health.
No.
That becomes a low priority because your mental health is shot.
It is. Well, if you go to work and you're like, why am I even showing up here if I'm not valued? That you will carry that around with you. Well, if I'm not valued at work, certainly, if you're working overtime all the time, you're not in the home, so nobody's there to see you. Your presence isn't in the home as much. So no, you have to prioritize yourself and be like, no, actually, I'm valuable. And, getting through the shift matters. Making sure I go home matters, because if I don't go home one day, then, if I don't go home one day, then who, everybody's suffering at that level. And I think the wellness committees are at least putting a nice foot forward in trying to promote, officer wellness. But again, there isn't very much incentive there. They'll be like, oh, we have the employee assistance program. Here's the pamphlet. Not, hey, here is a gym membership or even a referral list to first responder mental health counselors in the area. There's a ton of them. Why aren't they posted on the bulletin board in the break room or in public access or wherever you're coming into? Why isn't that, in the locker rooms? Hey, talk to somebody, So it's, go ahead.
I've had a couple of those people on here, and one of the things I talked about myself, like you, I was moving up through there. I had this plan, right, to promote. If you go to EAP, and I saw it happen way too many times, don't tell me that people don't talk. As soon as you go to EAP, everybody in the place knows it. And then your bosses don't want you as a supervisor. So even if you need help, you're not going.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They're not, there's, gosh, that's such a gray area too, because man,
we need it outside of our own agencies.
Yeah.
Every place I was at, it was within our agency. And so, and that's one of those things that's, I think, pretty specific to corrections, because we are self-contained and we do trust one another and we're so close-knit. Tell me this, what's different about training and teaching correctional officers? I mean, that's where you're focused now. Tell me what you have to do different than what you have to do for your normal clients.
So when it comes to officers, the first thing I notice off the bat, right, is it helps that I have correctional experience. That immediately is like, okay, you do get it. You do understand what, sitting in front of the continuous observation cell for, an extended period of time can bring, I do, sure. I get it. I understand the massive amount of hypervigilance that you have to remain. You can't just turn off for a couple of minutes. You can't just be like, well, I'll take a 10-minute over there and let them figure it out. You can't really, you could if you wanted to, but I don't necessarily think that would be ideal.
Right.
But having correctional background helps. And then having it's usually their mental health isn't great because they don't value, again, they don't feel valued in their facility. They have great rapport with their buddies. But as far as administration is concerned, they don't feel valued. They don't feel supported. They don't necessarily feel like they have a purpose anymore. And purpose is really kind of one of those things that all humans need in life, or a direction or a purpose. And they feel like they started the career with that feeling. And then after having been in it for so long, they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just making a paycheck. I'm just making a paycheck and just trying to get by, just cruise. And they've gone on to autopilot. Their mental health is destroyed. And, sometimes things get rocky in the home. So they share, those.
Because we're wonderful people to live with when we go home.
Yeah. Right.
20 hours of putting up with thugs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's lots of strain in those areas. It's just all of these external strains. So I feel like really what I try to do is make the connection with the person and then deep dive. You remember who you were when you started. You remember you had a direction. You remember you had a purpose. And you remembered that you were valuable at one point in time. That hasn't changed. You're still valuable. You're still serving a purpose bigger than yourself, right? Because you're keeping your community safe. You're keeping your community safe day in and day out. That's your number one. You want to go home. You want to be there for your family, and you want to enjoy that time. So we just need to bracket out just a little bit for you so you can go and blow off the steam, right? Because exercise is great for endorphins, get the blood moving. And then we need to focus on building these healthy habits just a little bit at a time. That way we're not resorting to Slim Jims and 3 Red Bulls. And then we're running across the yard if we have to, if something's going, you know what I mean? 90% of the time it's right. It's not. But when it kicks off, it's usually a big ordeal. You know what I mean? It's hectic. People are running in all different directions. And you got everybody coming in from all different places. You got to sell these guys in, make sure movement stops, make sure nobody else is messing around, get these guys out of here, and sort, these guys out. So there's just a lot of moving parts that go into, I think, officer fitness. And I think having a coach who can understand them on that level is easier than walking into like a gym. Or even just scrolling online and being like, well, that guy looks pretty good. And then you have a conversation with him and he's like, well, you just got to do the reps and get the food in and, everything else is spa. And you're like, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sure, bud.
Yeah.
I'll try that. I've tried that 500 other times and it just didn't work. So scaling back a little bit and making it a little bit easier. Okay, cool. So you can't make it 5. Let's get 3 in. You know what I mean? And we don't need to build show muscles. We don't need show muscles. I mean, unless you want to try and flex at somebody, how's that going to go? We don't need we need functional muscles. So let's work on our pushing power. Let's work on our pulling power so we can create close distance when it matters. Let's work on our grip strength so we can really keep a hold of somebody if we need to. Let's build our core. Because if we ever need to bring somebody from standing to prone and not standing, how many times have you heard somebody who's like, man, my back hurts after that. I don't know what I did wrong. Like I was just trying to get him down and then all of a sudden my back's messed up. And now they're out on PFMLA or FMLA or something because something happened with their back or their knee twisted the wrong way. So incorporating go ahead.
Or you see these YouTube videos these days that drive me nuts. 2 and 3 people trying to put one person on the ground. Come on, guys. This is pathetic.
Why
Either
is it
learn some skills or get some strength or something. But you look like a clown when it takes 3 of you and one person standing there, because you can't get a hold of them, you can't get control.
Right. Well, and there was one that I had actually used for one of my own, and I hate the video because it's awful, but it's a bunch of officers being assaulted and caught off guard because they were unprepared, completely unprepared. And there's one in particular, where you have an officer who's trying to, he's trying to create distance, but he's also trying to keep a hold of the incarcerated, and the incarcerated is just throwing blows left and right, just punching him over and over again. And there's 3 other officers over here the officer station is maybe 35 feet away, 30 to 35 feet away. There are 3 of them over there. And it took, in the video, I didn't time lapse, it took them between 2.5 to 4 seconds for everybody to get there. And one guy got his OC out, dropped it. And then one gal, I believe, I don't know, it must have been like a detention center or something. I don't know. I know up here we're not allowed to carry tasers in the facility. Some facilities have different rules. Yeah. But she had a taser, but almost immediately she was holding it with one hand and had leaned over at her waist. And I was like, that's not a very stable stance. What are you doing? And then all of a sudden we've got 4 people trying to get this guy on his stomach. And it wasn't going well. It wasn't going well.
Police departments, I teach at police departments and corrections around the country, and a lot of them have really embraced ground fighting, MMA, grappling, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu. I don't see that in corrections, and we need it. I ended up on the ground a lot, when I was working, We
do. I do.
What's the disconnect there?
For me, I think the disconnect is it's one of those things where people aren't, and this is just my personal opinion over the years, it's too much reliance on the tools rather than the training, right? Yeah. I have the tools, so it's almost like this illusion of safety in a sense, because can you get to the tools in time and then use them effectively before this guy gets a hold of you? You got to be faster than him, or you got to jump back and get distance, be faster than him. And then, if tools are great and we should use them, but we shouldn't allow them to overcompensate where our training should be. Because we should be training daily. We should be doing, fitness. We should be doing jiu-jitsu. We should be doing some sort of combat sport that's going to prepare us for what a hands-on altercation would look like. Because we only get DTs and CTs in the prisons once a year up here. And then if we're in the community, it's broken down into quarterly. You get 4-hour classes quarterly.
Yeah. Interesting. I got very good. I felt we got very good stuff in the academy when I started in Missouri, but that was 1992. And so the number of times I actually pulled OC is probably one hand over my career, because they taught us over and over again how to use arm bars, how to get control, how to sweep legs. And so that was the stuff I used, when I ended up in those fights. So I do think we need more of that. I think we need more of that hands-on, because a lot of the staff these days, they didn't grow up fighting in the playground. They didn't grow up doing that kind of stuff with hands-on. So being hands-on is new to some of them.
Yeah. Well, and that can be scary too. The first time you do have to go hands-on, there's hesitation, there's pause. It's not something if you didn't grow up like that, even if you did grow up messing around, fighting in the yard with your older brother, is still somebody you're not familiar with. All of a sudden, who's coming at you all in. They're all in. They're not stopping. They're not stopping to think, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. Or no, they don't. Yeah. They don't care.
I've said that before. There's a whole different, from all the fighting I did growing up, there was a whole different thing first time I was attacked. Yeah. Being attacked's a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mentally and physically.
It is. And so even if you don't have jiu-jitsu, just having 3 minutes of fight in you, 3 good minutes of fight until somebody can get there, because response does take time. And then you're relying on how fast are your partners. How fast
Right.
are they going to get there? And have they been told, because they're not training daily, hey, slow down. Don't show up gassed out. If you need to pace yourself, pace yourself. Rather than, I mean, I would like to switch that narrative a little tiny bit to, yes, pace yourself, but it really matters. You don't know if that guy's got a knife somewhere, that he's made and you don't know. You have
Right.
no idea what he's going to do. So you need to get to your partner. And why not be the person that's in the gym a couple of times a week? Sure, you're doing strength training, but you can add on a little bit of conditioning on the end of that just to amp it up. I don't mean go do a whole, marathon, but just a couple of minutes a week, repeatedly. If I do between 3 and 5 minutes, 3 days a week, that's 15 minutes a week over and over and over. That's 15 total minutes of cardio respiratory conditioning.
Give me an example of what exercise, what would you tell somebody that says, I worked 3 mandatories this week. I don't have time.
Okay.
What would you tell them?
We would definitely structure on 2 foundational, compound lifts, right? So let's say it's going to be a leg day, right? So we're going to definitely get some squats in, whether they prefer front squat or back squat. You know what I mean? We're all we all start at different places. Maybe we're not even squatting a barbell right now, but we're going to get some goblet squats in. We can do kettlebell work. We can use a sandbag. We could use a back squat. We can use front squat. We can do a zercher squat. We can do all different kinds of squats, but let's get your squat in there. Let's get your hip hinge in there. Let's get your deadlift in there, right? And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do some jump squats and if you're not at a jump squat level, we can definitely just do step ups, but exert force, right? And then on the back end of that, if we're doing those things, we could do some Bulgarian split squats to just really develop powerful legs. You know what I mean? It's single leg movement. So you're developing your power there. And then if you want to add on the end of that for cardiorespiratory conditioning, if your gym has a row machine, not like a cable row, but one of those rowers, right? Okay. If you do 3 rounds of just row at max capacity for 60 seconds and then stop and go do a set of heavy farmer's carries, that way you can work on regathering your breath. And then you just go and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And then if you're doing that, or if you get tired of the row machine, you can use an assault bike. You can use the treadmill, anything that's going to bring your heart rate up and your cardiorespiratory capacity up. And then coupled with stopping and doing something heavy.
Okay.
It's going to help you refocus your breath back down. And then you're just going to keep conditioning it. You can do sprints. You know what I mean? If you have no gym access, you can go out to an empty parking lot and just seven parking stalls is approximately 20 yards. Okay. It's approximately 20 yards. So you can just start there, do suicides, do a couple burpees. I mean, that's the thing is the guy. So it's, the guys who are at rec and they're doing the half reps in the gym, those aren't the guys I'm concerned about. The guys that I'm concerned about are the guys that start in there, they do a couple really heavy lifts, and they come out, hey, let me out of the cage. Let me come out here. I want to use the medicine ball really quick. I want to do my burpees. I want to do my crunches. I want to do my dips. I want to do my pull-ups. That guy is the guy that I'm worried about. Right. Because he's strengthening with compound movements, building muscle, and then he's coming out here and he spends the next, rec is 120 minutes long, maybe 90 minutes long. He spends the other half of that building his cardiorespiratory capacity up. And then he's doing his push-pull. If he's doing pull-ups, he has pull strength. If he's doing dips or he's doing burpees over and over and over again, he's developing a push strength. Sure. That's explosive power. That is nothing but concentrated explosive power. And they get good at them. And they do it for 5 or 10 years on a daily basis. And that's the person that you are showing up to with 3 Red Bulls and a Slim Jim in your gas tank and no gas.
Well, what's the saying? How hard would you train today if you knew you were fighting that person tomorrow?
Yeah, really hard.
But it's the truth. We see every day what we're going up against. And you're right. A lot of those guys are in really great, before, even when I started, they had huge weight piles. And these guys were giants out there on the yard. But now you see guys that are in even better shape. They looked better back then, but they're in better shape now.
Yeah, they're
just working off the bunk and a towel. And it's crazy.
Yeah, they could do a lot. You can do a lot with very limited equipment. These guys get creative all the time, but it's not the guys that are in the cage that are doing the half-ass stuff that I'm worried about. Because when I was relief, I had the opportunity to watch the rec, watch the rec movement, both the yard and in the gym. But in our gym, it was set up, it was the basketball court here, and then over here it was the cage where all the weights were, and everybody who was allowed to use that area, you just checked them in and secured the door and let them, but once they come out, they're done. But there would be guys that were in there the whole time, but I started to notice there were guys that would come in there, hey, at the time, my last name was Armstrong. So it was, hey, Armstrong, can you let me out? I need to use the bathroom. Okay, well, you can't go back in there. Well, they'd come out and they'd wipe themselves off. And then they'd go, there'd be a little gym porter over here. And then he'd be like, hey, can I check out the medicine ball? Can I check out the ab roller? Can I check out a mat? And then he would just sit there and do burpees and burpees and burpees. And then he would go and he'd run and he'd jog. And then they'd do dips on the dip bar, because there was built-in dip bars on the wall, or a built-in pull-up bar just screwed into the cement on the wall. And they would just spend the next 30 to 45 minutes doing that. I was like, that guy has a lot. That guy's kind of dangerous. You know what I mean? He's doing a little bit of strength training, and he's doing a lot of endurance training.
Yeah. So how do we get everybody excited about the exercise? We used to have little contests when I was running around as a rookie. We'd get back there on the sprinkler pipes and we'd have contests, as we made our rounds and stuff. But what can we do as a whole, or is it something the academy needs to do? But how do we get correctional officers interested in this?
I think, well, that's tough because everybody's motivators are different.
Okay.
Everybody's motivators are different. My motivator was that first of all, I'm a female. So I'm not a male, and I'm a female officer, and I need to be able to protect myself. I need to be able to pay attention to what's happening in my surroundings. Going and opening the porter closet could turn out differently for me than it could turn out for somebody else. You know what I mean? So I need to be training for my safety first and foremost, but for my health. That was my motivator. It was really like personal safety, because if somebody gets a hold of me, I want to be able to survive. I want to go home. I got kids at home. I need to go home tonight. There's the guys that want to look like, the Terminator. And so getting them motivated, it's a little bit easier, you know what I mean, to get them motivated because they're already there in their minds. They're like, I am going to be Captain America. So those are, those guys are a little bit easier. But then you also have to motivate the people that fitness is not new to them. Or excuse me, it is new to them. It's not something that's been regularly at the forefront of their minds. So you have to make it sound exciting to them. And or the people who have lost their fitness to the job. And so there's a lot of insecurity and a lack of self-confidence around going back to a gym, showing up in a way that they don't feel like they've earned anymore. Maybe they did put on the 30 or 40 pounds and their confidence is a little bit low. They don't feel as good. They don't, So like, I don't want to go to the gym, and I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And so everybody's motivators are different. Getting people excited as a whole. I know that soon, it's not out yet. I will be promoting it I am going to be doing like a 14-day challenge, like a 14-day fitness challenge. And it's just going to be simple little things from the program that people can work on and actually give them like a measurable goal to work towards just in the 2 weeks time. Because 2 weeks isn't a long time to work with somebody, but hopefully it's enough for them to be like, hey, this is fun. I can get a couple officers to do it with me. We can do it 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days a week after or before. We can just try these little conditioning exercises or try out a new squat technique you've never done before. I mean, there's always something to learn. If you don't know, if you're intimidated by the barbell, that's okay. Grab some dumbbells, just do a goblet front squat, do a front rack with the dumbbells, and then, do something fun, do well, they call it a dumbbell thruster, but essentially, you go through a regular squat stance, and then it's just overhead press. And, you're building triple extension when you do that. That builds triple extension from the ground up. You're learning, it's actually like a full body movement. You're learning a whole bunch of differing movements together at the same time. And it's fun. Right. You're not just going to be doing 3 sets of 12 of bicep curls and,
Yeah. There's some people that there's some people that enjoy that. I know the guys who stop and they've got the little book and they write everything down. Never was for me. I enjoyed sandbags. I did Scottish Highland Games for about 14 years.
That's fun.
So I always had to have something a little bit more creative to keep me going. But everybody's got their own. I had a guest on here. I don't know, probably 10, 15 episodes back. I just want to hear what you think about this. His name was Miles Cook, and he runs a police training academy. And he's changed the way he does physical fitness for the recruits. He now sits down and takes the time, which it takes time, and builds a fitness deal with them based on their goals and what they need. But he quit using physical fitness as punishment. And I remember when I was in the academy, drop and give us 20, or go run laps till I tell you to quit. What are your thoughts on that? It kind of was an epiphany for me to hear that.
Physical fitness as punishment. I don't know if I've ever. That's so on the fence for me.
Do you think it keeps us from liking it?
I don't know, because it's really is kind of important for character building. I'm kind of on that side of things. It's very important for character building and building discipline and being like, okay, I'm going to go, I hate this right now. I'm very angry, but now I'm going to go exert physical energy and it's going to give me, you know what I mean? There's two things that are going on in that moment. And we're going to go when we're angry, and then we go do the hard thing. And then on the other side of the hard thing, 90% of the time we feel pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then we have that endorphin release and we're like, man, that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I don't disagree, but I also don't necessarily agree, because there are the people that will build up naturally rebel against that. And then that could taint their relationship or even the desire to even want to participate in fitness. If it was drilled into their head over and over, well, you messed up, so now you got 50 push-ups, or, you're going to be doing push-ups until I say.
Yeah.
Music helps. I think community, though, and getting together in small groups and doing fitness challenges is something that works well for a lot of people who, I guess, have aversions, because they get to do it with somebody. They get to do it with their friend. They get to feel like they're accomplishing something together, and then they're sitting there high-fiving each other. They're proud of each other. They both did something really, hard. It's not easy to be physically fit. It's not for anybody. Building habits, you know what I mean, takes time. And I think you do get to a point where you're like, man, I don't feel right if I don't go to the gym. But that's not where people start.
So
You know,
if before we get off here, let me
sure.
ask you this. Let me get out, answer you, well, I can't talk today. Let me ask you this question. So you've got somebody out there who's 40 to 50 years old. They've been working in corrections for years. They're not feeling good about themselves. They're not feeling good about exercise. What advice are you going to give them to have them make that first step?
The first step?
Yeah.
The first step is a lot of so they're halfway through their life. They don't feel good about themselves. So they have half their life left. That's time. We have time. And just doing these small things, we don't have to start out, doing Terminator level exercises. Let's just start with these few things. Once you learn that you can do them and they are making you feel better, your confidence is going to grow. And then you're going to be more willing to try. And then that in turn, your confidence growing is going to make you feel better. And you'll be like, wow, I'm getting something out of this. And I do feel better. I feel better about myself. I feel better. I feel physically better after having gone to the gym. If I just change this couple things, because a lot of the time as a fitness, I guess as a fitness coach, a lot of times you're taking everybody's day-to-day life and you're upending them. And then you're asking people to start brand new things and it's chaos. You know what I mean? Not only are we asking you to go to the gym multiple times a week, but we're asking you to completely change your nutrition habits. And so you have to, unless they're, ready, they're like, I am willing and ready to do this. You have to do it a little bit at a time. Just build little habits because discipline, much like a muscle, is exercised. You weren't born with it. You're not, you got the guys out there, it's just a discipline. Okay, well, do you remember when you first started? How much discipline did you actually have going into that? Probably not much. And you had to build your discipline over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I know how quickly it fades when your priority gets out of order, or else I wouldn't have gained 50 pounds as an officer. I wouldn't have left the fitness industry and then tried to continue bodybuilding as an officer, and then it backfired, gained the 50 pounds, give up and just say, you know what? Jack in the Box is way easier. Dude, Taco Bell is right there. I just want to go home and go to sleep.
Yeah. So you mentioned it a couple of times. Meal prep is probably the most important thing you can do for your nutrition is be ready for that mandatory, be ready for that so that you're not surprised and going to Jack in Box or the vending machine.
Yeah. And just be ready. I learned very early on that I would have, I went in to it meal prepping though. So I was in the habit of just, keeping my, my food with me. I went into that meal prepping, but I would always pack an extra. Well, I guess not always. I learned to pack an extra just in case I got mandoed. And so I didn't have to choose from the Hungry Man or, you know what I mean, with whatever they had. I think they have the Healthy Choice bowls now, which is like chicken lo mein, and it's not really Healthy Choice, but they have, they have a freezer up in the shift office. And if you get mandoed, you get a shift meal, and it's either a Hungry Man or a Healthy Choice. But I would just pack an extra. Just pack some yogurt, pack some berries, put your little insulator. I don't know though, because now they have to have the clear plastic lunch bags.
Yeah.
And a lot of those times they're not insulated. They don't have ice packs to go with them.
Yeah.
So,
maybe even some granola bars would be better than, your week's worth of salt in a Hungry Man dinner.
Hungry Man dinner. Yeah, no, just put in, just make it and keep it very simple. I still cook in bulk. I still use my Instapot to do a whole pack of chicken all at once in the Instapot. I just shred it and I put it in my fridge, and then I just prep my meals throughout, whatever I need to do. If I'm leaving somewhere, I just have 1, 2. You know what I mean? I have 2 meals with me, pending how long I'm going to be gone. If I'm going to be on a long shift, I'm going to take 3 just in case. And you're not stuck to just chicken and rice. Potatoes, in fact, are not, not as dangerous as everybody has made them out to be. You can potatoes are actually more satiating than rice, and they're about the same. So as long as we're not dumping like butter and bacon and sour cream and cheese on them, we're doing it. We can have the potato.
Right.
It's not gonna hurt us. I know. But yeah, just potatoes, lean beef. If you want, you can have sweet potato, regular potato, red potato, rice, oatmeal, yogurt, cream of wheat. If you want cream of wheat, whatever you want to do. If you're not that kind of a person, take, 1.5 whole, like 1.5 English muffins, like the whole wheat English muffins. Just stick those there with, if you have whatever you're using, turkey. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can do that. You can have spinach. You can make, green beans. You can use strawberry. There's all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, well, is there a website and an email? Can you give those to us?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook. Letha Cowan is my Facebook. And then if you go to Facebook page, we have Watchline Fitness. Instagram's Watchline Fitness. We have Watchline Supply Co. That's more of our t-shirts and it's kind of correctional heritage apparel is what we call it. You know what I mean? We have our 5 flagship t-shirts there. We have 2 that are more geared towards like the fitness side of things. So we have hoodies, all those things. WatchlineFitness@gmail.com. I am, all over the socials except for TikTok, things like that. It's just Instagram, Facebook. And then soon I will be doing the 14-day challenge. I don't have a date yet. It is not, but it's coming up. I'm looking probably like mid to the end of August. And I'm really hopeful that people of all different fitness levels will join and then realize, hey, there is something out there for us to do.
Yeah. Well, make sure you hit me on that and I'll share it on my social too, so that everybody can find that.
I will.
Yeah, guys. Looking at the notes here, it's important for all of us. I thank you so much, Letha, for coming on here. I learned a lot. And it's, like you said, you've already been a correctional officer, and corrections, we have this trust for people that we know that have been through a lot of what we've been through. So thank you for what you're doing out there. Tell Trey I said hi when you get the chance.
Absolutely. I certainly will. And thank you for having me on. And thank you, Trey, for connecting Mike and myself. This has been a great experience. It has been overall. And I truly do want to help officers. At the end of the day, I want officers to be happy and healthy and living out their retirement.
Yeah.
Enjoying it. I want them to live past that.
It's important.
It is.
I made it. It's gravy now. So. Well, thank you once again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoy these podcasts, the best way to support the Prisoner Officer Podcast is to share these episodes with your friends or family on social media. Let me invite you to visit www.theprisonofficer.com. If you haven't already, check out the Prison Officer Podcast on Facebook and click that little follow button. Or leave us a message, or better yet, leave us a review. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, Google, or Spotify, please click the subscribe button. Till next time, I'm Mike Cantrell. Watch your back, and please take care of each other out there behind those walls.